In the quiet corners of our world, where shadows stretch long and secrets lie hidden, there are stories that defy explanation, stories so chilling they chill the very marrow of your bones. Imagine waking in the dead of night, paralyzed by a force beyond comprehension, with an ancient evil whispering threats into your mind. Or find yourself battling unseen horrors in a home steeped in dark rituals and occult practices. These are not tales of fiction. They are true accounts of possession and terror that will make you question the thin veil between reality and nightmare. Tonight we journey into the heart of darkness with real-life horror stories of possession that will haunt you long after the screen goes dark. This is not a story for the faint of heart. This is the reality of true possession. But before we delve into tonight's terrifying tales, a huge shout out to all of you. Your support fuels this channel and keeps the nightmares coming. If our eerie stories captivate you, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a chilling episode. And if you want to help us grow and keep the fear alive, share our videos, drop a comment, or explore our support options on Patreon or Ko-fi. Every bit of support helps us bring you the best spine-tingling content. Thank you for joining us on this dark journey. Now let's embrace the shadows together. A few years ago, an eerie presence began to encroach upon my life, haunting not just my girlfriend Jenny's apartment, but also her mother's place and even a friend's residence across the parking lot. This sinister entity seemed to have a knack for appearing wherever we sought refuge, inflicting terror with an almost malevolent glee. Night after night, we'd peer through the windows and catch sight of a shadowy figure standing motionless in the darkness of the building across the lot. Despite our calls to the neighbor to investigate, each time she found nothing amiss, yet the shadow lingered as if taunting us with its persistent presence. Jenny's apartment was particularly plagued by this shadow. It would dart through rooms with a speed and fluidity that made it seem less like a physical being and more like a living, dark wisp. At the time, I was deeply immersed in meditation, fervently pursuing out-of-body experiences, seeking some form of spiritual enlightenment. Little did I know that my quest for transcendence was about to open a door to a realm of nightmares. It was only a matter of time before my wish for a profound spiritual experience was granted, but the results were far from what I had anticipated. I faced a demon on 2 separate occasions, each encounter leaving me more shaken than the last. Those stories, however, are for another time. By then, I had moved 6 miles away from Jenny's apartment, and our relationship had soured into a series of heated arguments and emotional strife. It was as if our ongoing conflicts were feeding the entity's power, strengthening its grip on us. One particularly haunting night, while Jenny and I lay in bed with her toy poodle Fancy, a wave of inexplicable terror washed over me. I woke up with a jolt, my body gripped by a paralyzing stiffness and intense vibrations at the base of my head and neck. My head lifted involuntarily, and Jenny, her voice trembling, tried to hold me close, whispering reassurances that everything would be all right. I pretended to be calm, but deep inside a cold fear took hold of me, as if something dreadfully wrong was happening. A few nights later, while I was alone at my house talking to Jenny on the phone, another argument erupted out of the blue. The atmosphere seemed to crackle with malevolent energy, as if the entity itself was stirring up our discord. After the call ended, the familiar, terrifying stiffness and vibrations returned with a vengeance. I was utterly powerless, my body no longer under my control. My vision began to distort, blurring as if I were being drawn into a deep, dark tunnel. A dense, black mist surrounded me, infiltrating my senses and overwhelming me with the entity's oppressive presence. I was trapped in my own body, unable to fight against the entity's dark will. I stumbled out of my house, driven by a force beyond my understanding, compelled to move towards Jenny's apartment in the pitch-black night. With each step, the entity's control over me tightened, turning my actions into something frantic and almost feral. I was a prisoner within my own skin, the entity's sinister intent clearly aimed at harming Jenny. As I trudged down the dark, deserted country road, I could feel the entity's thoughts mingling with my own terror. Passing cars reacted with shock and accelerated away, likely frightened by the sight of my wild eyes and the malevolent aura surrounding me. As we approached Jenny's apartment, desperation consumed me. I passed a small cowboy church, hoping against hope for salvation from Pastor Zach, but it was empty, a cold, unwelcoming shell. Ahead, another church came into view, its parking lot illuminated by soft lights and filled with worshippers. I clung to the hope that some divine intervention might save me. As I neared the church, the entity was suddenly expelled from my body with such force that it felt like the air was being torn from my lungs. I collapsed, gasping and retching as the oppressive weight lifted from me. Regaining my composure, I looked around and realized I had come perilously close to Jenny's apartment. Overwhelmed with emotion, I began to sob uncontrollably, barely managing to keep my stomach from emptying once more. The horrifying realization of what had almost happened, that I had been possessed and driven to harm Jenny, shattered me to my core. I turned and fled, running the 6 miles back to my house, tears streaming down my face, my mind haunted by the harrowing experience. To this day, the chilling truth of that night remains a dark, hidden scar, a story I have never shared with Jenny and perhaps never will. The terror and the memories of that night linger in my mind like a shadow, a constant reminder of the darkness that once sought to consume us. The experience left me forever changed, marked by an encounter that defies simple explanation and continues to haunt my dreams. After my girlfriend's tragic suicide in April of last year, my life took a dark, haunting turn. Her battle with a personality disorder had been relentless, and her unexpected death left everyone, including her doctors, reeling in shock. Just a week after her distressing release from the hospital, following a severe psychotic episode, she took her own life at her apartment. From that day forward, my own home became a stage for unsettling occurrences. Most were peculiar but harmless, like whispers in the walls or fleeting shadows. But one night in March, a month before her death, stands out with a chilling clarity. It was late, and I had returned home, utterly drained and burdened by the weight of her confinement. All the lights in the house blazed, trying to chase away the shadows that seemed to follow me. I collapsed onto my bed, my mind a turbulent sea of worry and despair over her condition. As I lay there, wrestling with the cold grip of mental illness and its implications, an unbidden compulsion made me roll onto my right side. In that moment, I came face to face with an abomination, a grotesque figure that seemed to crawl from the depths of nightmare itself. Its eyes were burning red orbs, devoid of pupils, radiating an otherworldly malice that no special effects team could ever replicate. It materialized just a few feet away from me, eye level, with a malevolence so profound it felt like it had been plucked straight from the darkest recesses of my mind. This was no hazy apparition or fleeting trick of light. The entity was as real and sharp as the computer screen in front of me. I had just arrived home, the lights still glaring, my senses wide awake. The entity's appearance was fleeting, like a light switched on in a dark room only to be turned off the moment it was seen. My reaction was much like the police officer in Jaws, when he first glimpses the shark while tossing fish into the water. I didn't utter the famous line, "We're gonna need a bigger boat," but I did sit up in bed shaking my head in disbelief. I wasn't overtaken by fear. Instead, I was stunned into silence. Despite my attempts to rationalize the encounter, deep down I knew it was all too real, not a mere figment of my imagination. Normally, I would have turned on the TV to drown out my fears and ease into sleep, but that night, I resignedly donned my pajamas, switched off the lights, and climbed into bed. The sensation was inescapable, a heavy, unsettling feeling that something was there with me, an ominous presence I could not escape. Was this entity somehow connected to my girlfriend? Was it a harbinger of doom? Strangely, I could never pinpoint its exact connection to her, even though it had appeared around the time she had attempted suicide in the hospital. A distressing incident that went unnoticed by her medical team. Another profound realization came months later when I revisited the movie The Rite. When it was first released, the film had failed to frighten me, yet as I watched it again in November, I was struck by a scene featuring a mule and haunting red eyes. The sight of those eyes was a precise match for the entity I had encountered. If you're curious, you can find this unsettling scene online confirming my eerie encounter. To this day, I remain uncertain about the nature of the entity that visited me that night. I am still in the dark about why it revealed itself to me. It wasn't a hallucination. I have never delved into black magic or worshipped anything sinister. I don't even associate with those who do. While I believe in God, I don't adhere to any specific religious doctrine. In my search for answers, I reached out to a Catholic priest, hoping his experience with such matters might offer some solace. Sadly, his counsel did little to ease my troubled soul. He spoke kind words, assuring me that I wasn't losing my mind, and that he had heard even more disturbing tales in his line of work, a feeble attempt at comfort, perhaps. But his discomfort and unease were palpable. Since my girlfriend's passing, I have never seen that eerie apparition again. Yet the experience has left me with a profound realization. If evil exists, so must God. This truth has left me humbled and drawn me closer to a divine presence in my life, offering a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. I was an ordinary girl, living in a peaceful small town with my loving family. Known for my warm heart and gentle nature, I had never known anything but quiet serenity, until darkness crept into my life and twisted it into a living nightmare. It began subtly, almost imperceptibly. At first, there were the odd, inexplicable events, objects shifting on their own, a cold draft when no window was open, and whispers that seemed to echo from the corners of the house. I dismissed them as figments of my overactive imagination or simple coincidences. But as days turned into weeks, these disturbances grew more insidious, more unsettling. One night, the terror reached its peak. I awoke to find myself paralyzed, unable to move or even cry out. My bedroom, once a safe haven, was now cloaked in an oppressive darkness that seemed to press against my skin. An icy presence surrounded me, and then I heard it, a voice, guttural and malevolent, slithering through my mind. It spoke in a language I couldn't comprehend, taunting me with threats and promises of eternal suffering. I was trapped in my own body, unable to fight back, my only refuge a desperate plea for release from this unseen tormentor. The nightmarish events didn't end with that single incident, they only intensified. My sleep was shattered by relentless, horrifying dreams. Dark, shadowy figures invaded my nights, their whispers carrying twisted secrets that seemed to seep into my very soul. Each dream left me more drained and terrorized than the last, and I woke up each morning feeling as though I hadn't slept at all. Seeing me suffer, my family grew increasingly alarmed. they sought out a renowned paranormal investigator, hoping he might uncover some answers. When he dug into the history of our home, he discovered a chilling truth. Our house had once been a focal point for occult practices and dark rituals. The knowledge that the very walls of our home had witnessed such malevolence sent a shiver down my spine. Desperate and running out of options, my family called upon Father Thomas, a seasoned exorcist known for his unyielding battles against demonic forces. When he arrived, I felt a flicker of hope amidst my fear. Father Thomas came prepared, armed with ancient prayers and sacred artifacts, ready to confront whatever had taken hold of me. The exorcism was an ordeal unlike anything I could have imagined. My body twisted and contorted in unnatural ways, as if controlled by some dark force. My voice, no longer my own, twisted into guttural growls and eerie, inhuman sounds. Father Thomas fought valiantly against the demon, reciting prayers and wielding holy objects with fierce determination. The battle was intense and grueling, a relentless clash between light and shadow that felt almost too overwhelming to endure. Hours seemed to stretch into eternity, but eventually, the demon was expelled from my body. I lay there, completely drained, feeling as though every ounce of my energy had been siphoned away. My family was overwhelmed with relief, believing the nightmare had finally ended. But the darkness had not been fully vanquished. Months passed, and while I appeared to have physically recovered, a lingering sense of dread refused to leave me. Strange occurrences continued, albeit less intense. Lights flickering on and off, sudden cold spots in the house, and fleeting shadows that seemed to move just out of sight. It was as if the darkness had not been eradicated, but had merely retreated, lying in wait for another opportunity to strike. Haunted by the echoes of my possession and the persistent shadows, I resolved to take control of my own fate. I immersed myself in the study of the supernatural, determined to arm myself against any future threats. I learned everything I could about dark forces and protective measures, driven by the need to never again feel so helpless and terrified. With this newfound knowledge and a steely resolve forged in the fires of my ordeal, I dedicated my life to helping others who were tormented by the same forces that once consumed me. The haunting of my soul is not just a tale of fear and survival. It is a chilling reminder that even in the grip of the most unspeakable horrors, the strength of the human spirit can endure. Though shadows may linger and nightmares may persist, the fight for light and the will to survive can guide us through even the darkest of times. It serves as a testament to the power of resilience and the unyielding quest for peace amidst the terror that seeks to overwhelm us. If you've encountered a terrifying event or have a spine-chilling horror story to share, we at Eerie Shadows want to hear from you. Share your experiences with us and let's uncover the mysteries lurking in the eerie shadows together. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more eerie tales and spine-chilling stories like this one.